Welcome to episode 5 of the Talk Wildlife podcast. Today's topic is Common Misconceptions, a topic which a few people have requested for us to cover. We considered covering a few very large topics in this episode, such as whether grey squirrels are to blame for red squirrel decline, whether badgers are to blame for TB, whether pigeons spread disease, and whether gulls have taken over our towns. But we decided to discuss these very large topics in their own episodes sometime in the future, so that we can go into great detail about them. We're going to do this podcast in 2 parts, because otherwise I think it's going to be quite long. Now, let's talk wildlife. Kev, would you like to give us a first example of a common misconception regarding wildlife?
Yes, I will. And this one I hear in my professional job every year. It's a common reoccurrence. Do foxes attack babies? What do you think?
No, I don't believe foxes attack babies.
No, they don't. Foxes are not dangerous to humans in the form of attacks. I don't think there's ever been a recorded death of a human due to a fox.
It's likely that humans have been bitten and scratched by foxes, wild foxes that is, but hundreds of people are killed by dogs as well. Thousands of people are killed by dogs.
Yeah.
And they're not hated, so it's kind of unfair to hate foxes because of the odd Daily Mail news story about a fox attacking a baby.
It's a yearly Daily Mail news story. Well, there have been suspected reported attacks on babies in the past, but these stories never add up or they've never been verified. And as I always say with these, once you start asking questions, the accounts of the story always change. So one of the things I did recently, I remember you were witness to this one. There was a story of a fox attack, and you read the first story on day one, let's say for Monday, for example. By the time you got to Friday and the family's done their 10th interview, the stories changed completely. And this happens with all the cases. There's never been one where the stories stayed the same. They change dramatically as the people get more and more coverage with the press. And it's weird because I don't believe they can stick to the story they made up. And I don't know the reasons why people do this. I know the reason why some media outlets like to push this story, because it's always in time for the fox hunting season to begin again. But I'll go in a bit more detail. One case I looked into didn't even have signs of a fox bite. And I think there was a surgeon or a doctor at a hospital who said that the marks that was found on the child were more in line of that of a small terrier type dog, which the family didn't disclose to the media, but on their social media they had loads of pictures of these dogs, rather than a fox marking.
This happened on 2 different occasions, didn't it, with 2 different families who claimed their child had been attacked by a fox?
Yeah, so it makes me think that in these cases sometimes they may do have problem with foxes, but I wouldn't put it so far past that their pet dog has bitten the child, and so their dog's not going to be exterminated, they're blaming it on a fox.
I think 2 years ago there was a family which blamed a fox for attacking the child, but they also had a video of themselves 3 days earlier trying to attack the fox in their garden, and then they also had a dog. And do you remember the baby's wounds were like on its legs, and it happened
Yes.
to be the same place where the baby bouncer's straps went? And it was something to do with they picked the baby up really quickly, and the straps from the bouncer
scraped down the legs of the baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they tried to blame it on the fox, but it's very obvious a fox can't make plastic kind of rectangular shapes unless it's a very skilled fox, but I don't think they can do that.
But that family clearly hated the foxes, and that was before they claimed any attack. So it's a coincidence that 3 days later the fox thought, well, you chased me around the garden, I'm going to seek revenge by biting your baby or squeezing it with buckles.
Well, there's stories like there's another account that I was spoken to about where a fox apparently got in through a locked door, gone through the house, gone up the stairs, found the baby's bedroom, opened the baby's door, jumped into the cot, pulled the baby out of the cot by its head, taken it down the stairs and left it on the floor. I will put my professional reputation on the line saying that did not happen.
How does a fox even get its mouth around a baby's head?
I don't know how one would even notice, to not even hear the baby screaming when the fox apparently jumped in the ground head, then had the strength and the power to pull a baby, which was probably, a good size compared to the fox itself, up and over and then drop it from the cot, which again no one heard, then drag it down the stairs, which no one heard. But just like I said before, this story changed because the mother then later claimed the baby was on a bouncer on the sofa while she went for a shower.
And funnily enough, they had a dog as well.
They did. And it's just weird things like this. So if you ever hear these scare stories of foxes attacking babies, read not just one of the stories, read multiple stories on different days, because you'll see a different story coming out every time.
In fact, Kev, you've got a perfect example of how easy it is for people to exaggerate what happened to them with foxes. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do. So I had a client call me a couple of years back regarding their dog had just been attacked by a fox. And I was like, oh, right, okay, I can understand that's quite worrying. So I started asking questions. So I said, what did the fox do? Did it bite your dog? Oh, no. But you just said it attacked your dog. And then I said, did the fox run up to your dog and look like it was going to bite it? Oh, no. Okay. Did the fox come anywhere near you? Oh, no. I was like, okay, so there's not been a fox attack. And I did confront the lady about this. And I said, well, what really happened? And she said to me, she saw a fox and it ran away. And to her, I guess she was really scared. But she then used that experience to claim a fox had attacked her dog. When in fact, what most likely happened is her and the dog had spooked a fox on the walk, and the fox had ran away, and she got a fright and then claimed it attacked her dog, which it hadn't done at all. One of the things that you need to be aware of, though, is the media loves to use alarming headlines to sell its papers. Because let's face it, a fox attack on a baby, that on the front of your newspaper, they're expecting people are going to buy that because they want to read the story. But it puts false fears into people. Much like the Metro did with a fox attack story, they titled the story Killer Urban Fox. Despite this fox not killing anything, they called it a killer urban fox. Now that puts fear into people, especially into parents when they're then talking about children in the story, when in fact the fox didn't attack or kill anyone. I don't know whether they're trying to claim that the fox is going to kill children or the fox is going to kill a rat, because in the fact that a fox would kill...
Any carnivore is a killer then.
Exactly. There's another one. Another headline was, a fox could have ripped my baby to pieces. A fox cannot rip your baby to pieces.
But then again, you could say, my dog could have ripped my baby to pieces. I mean, it didn't, but it could if it wanted to. So why is that headline even... Why does that exist?
These are classic examples of scaremongering. They want people to be scared of foxes. And there's usually a long down the line hidden reason. And it's usually to do with fox hunting or vilifying foxes. I've worked with foxes for a very, very long time. I've been face to face with foxes and their cubs in a den.
Cornered foxes.
I've accidentally cornered foxes. I've had to catch foxes. I've never been harmed by a fox. They're not going to come and eat you. They're not going to come and eat your babies. So I say no, foxes do not attack babies. So Flo, what you got for us then for your first common misconception?
Well, my first one was going to be that pigeons are diseased and are rats with wings, and I really want to make it a whole episode, so can I leave this one for now and can we do a whole episode on this?
I will add one point to that. I love pigeons, I love rats.
I'd like to do this for a whole episode.
So do you want to pick another one then?
Yes, I shall. Here's a really common misconception. Baby birds will be abandoned by their parents if you touch them. And this is so widely believed. This may be the case with mammals, particularly hedgehogs. If you found a baby hedgehog and you disturbed the nest and you touched all the hedgehog babies, sometimes the mum will actually cannibalise the young if they're that disturbed. So with mammals, it is a bit more true, so don't disturb mammal babies. But with birds, if you find a bird on the ground that's fallen out of a nest and it's not injured and you know exactly which nest it came from, there's absolutely no reason why you can't just place it back in the nest, as long as you're not having to climb up somewhere dangerous or doing something that may dislodge the nest in the process. As long as the nest is being looked after by the parents, they won't abandon the young just because you touch them. If you greatly disturb the nest in the process of putting the bird back, then maybe they will. But most likely, they're investing so much in the young, they're not going to go away just because their nest has been touched. So if you find a nestling on the ground, put it back in the nest, the parents won't abandon it. Birds don't use scent in the same way that mammals do. And so you don't need to worry about your smell or your scent disrupting a nest. Obviously, if the bird's injured or very cold or has been attacked by something, even just picked up by a cat and put down again with no sign of injury, it will need to go to a wildlife rescue centre. If you're not sure if a bird is able to be put back in a nest because of some other reason, then you can phone your local wildlife rescue centre for advice. And make sure that their parents are returning to the nest after you put it back. So what's your next common misconception, Kev?
I think this one depends on what programs you watched as a child when growing up. A lot of people think that mice solely feed on cheese. For somebody who works with mice a lot, it's really baffling to understand why. So this was a fun one for me to research into. A lot of people think mice eat cheese as their natural food. I've seen many posts of people finding wild mice and giving them cheese because that's what they need to have. And common saying, if you have mice and give them cheese, or even if you're gonna try and catch a mouse in a live catch trap, use cheese.
I know that cheese has quite a strong scent, but do you think that some people actually believe that it is their food source? Not just a food, but the food source. But then if their sole food is cheese, where would they get the cheese from?
This is the thing, because people who buy cheese and have mice in the kitchen, the mice must be there to get the cheese. I don't know, it's a funny one. Mice will eat almost any foods they can get hold of. So they may eat cheese, but they do not eat cheese as their primary food source. It's not what they're going after. BBC Winter Watch ran a small test, a non-scientific one, to see what mice would take from different food sources. And they went for every other food source other than cheese. The cheese was the one they ate last. And in some cases, they didn't even go and eat the cheese. So it's weird because it showed that the mice were more interested in going for foods with higher carbohydrates and they shunned the cheese. So that kind of showed that mice weren't even that interested in cheese when it comes to it. So where did this cheese eating idea come from? Most of our memories of mice most likely to refer to cartoons like Tom and Jerry and other cartoons and films which all portray the mice eating or trying to get to cheese. So they mislead us into thinking that mice eat cheese, want cheese, will do anything to get cheese, or use any implement and do anything they can to get past the cat to get to the cheese. It's not true. Mice may eat cheese, but they choose usually not to. So, Flo, what's your next one?
My next myth or common misconception is that good foods to feed hedgehogs include peanuts, sunflower heart, jam, mealworms, and milk.
Oh, no. Working in wildlife rescue as well as you, to me, I'm just like, no.
Don't do it. Okay, so first of all, peanuts. Whole peanuts can get stuck in hedgehogs' mouths, and hedgehogs can actually die of it, which seems quite extreme, but it's true. And peanuts alongside sunflower hearts are actually quite bad for them, as well as mealworms as well, actually, because all of these can lead to metabolic bone disease in hedgehogs. This is a horrible and fatal disease, and it's because of a calcium to phosphorus ratio not being correct. This basically means that the calcium in a hedgehog's diet needs to be twice that of the phosphorus in order for a hedgehog to be healthy. Now, sunflower seeds do not have a 2-to-1 ratio, as should be the case. Their ratio is actually 1 part calcium to 15 parts phosphorus. Mealworms is 1 to 7. Peanuts, sunflower seeds, and mealworms are not good to feed hedgehogs for this reason.
So would you say those foods you listed should not be a staple? You shouldn't be putting a bowl full of mealworms or a bowl full of whole peanuts?
Exactly. I mean, if you've got a hedgehog in a wildlife rescue centre and they're not eating anything, then sometimes you can try something like that just to get them eating. But that alone won't support them and won't sustain them. And while you can buy other better foods, you should just avoid them completely because they're not benefiting them in the way that the other foods you can give them are. When it comes to the milk, it's quite simple. Hedgehogs are lactose intolerant and feeding them milk can lead to upset stomachs. They just don't need it, just in the same way that you don't feed, your rat's milk or your mice milk or cheese.
The glaring obvious thing is a hedgehog is not a baby cow, so it doesn't need cow's milk.
Yeah, and it doesn't need goat's milk either. It just doesn't need milk. Humans can survive without milk too after weaning. It's the same sort of thing. As for jams, as well as fruits, hedgehogs will consume tasty foods and sweet foods like this if they can, but it's a lot like humans will. If you've got chocolate on the table, humans will probably eat it. It doesn't mean that it's good for them. And it's very bad for their teeth, because obviously hedgehogs don't brush their teeth like we do. It can easily lead to tooth decay and stomach upset as well. Other things that hedgehogs can't digest include bread, a high quantity of red meat. So if you're feeding any meat to hedgehogs, a lighter meat is better for them. They also can't digest fish or eggs and many other foods as well. So if you are going to feed your hedgehog, the best things to feed it are cat or dog food, not fish-based and preferably a lighter meat, or cat or dog biscuits. Or you can even order specially made hedgehog food online. Another myth to do with hedgehogs, which I'll just really quickly mention, is that hedgehogs can give your dog fleas or your cat fleas. But hedgehog fleas are actually host specific, so while a hedgehog flea could end up on your cat or dog, they're not going to create an infestation. What's your next one, Kev?
My next one is rats go for your neck if cornered. If you corner any animal, it's probably going to want to try and defend itself. But this is not the case in the rat. This is an old myth and it's not true. Even some pest control companies have this on a website that it's not true and it doesn't happen. But there is a reason why we think this myth is around. Now, if you corner a rat and he's stuck and he's crouched down, he's looking up and you're almost hunched over him in his eyes, they will want to escape. The first thing they want to do is get away from you as quick as possible. Now, if there's a light source coming from behind you and you're silhouetted to that rat, the only areas where he can see he can escape, the only areas of light is going to be either side of your head. So the rat is going to want to make a bolt for what he thinks is the exit. Because if he can't see another way out, and he can only see going up and over you is the only way, he's going to scurry up you, he's going to try and bounce up you and go over you. Now this is where I think this has happened on maybe a few occasions in the past, and long past, and it's become the go-to what happens if you corner a rat now. But I think the rats will jump up, run, and I think they basically just scurry past the person and scratch the neck. They do not bite your neck. They do not go up to scratch your neck. They're not mini vampires.
Vampire rats.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. It's a complete myth. Rats, if cornered, will not go for your neck. They want to escape. If you accidentally corner a rat, step aside. Let him see where he can go. And then he'll go quite peacefully. They do squeal a lot. And wouldn't you if a big predator was looming over you?
So my next one is that you should cut up dog hair, dryer lint, string, human hair and other such materials for birds' nests. So animal fur cut up and put outside for birds to use in their birds' nests can be a good idea, as long as the hair isn't too long and as long as it's not chemically treated. I believed in the past that it wasn't a good idea anyway, but Chris Packham and other wildlife experts have said that it is fine. However, you just need to make sure that the fur is completely clean and hasn't been used with any harsh chemicals, as these can harm young and adult birds. Dryer lint is very bad because it can easily fall apart and therefore destroy a nest, and it can also coat birds' feet and legs. It's also hazardous to the lungs of the chicks, and the chemicals from the detergent are toxic. Human hair is not a good idea, as chemicals are also used to treat it, and it can wrap around birds' feet and legs, and you'll often see pigeons in the city centre with things around their feet and their toes having come off, and sometimes this is actually human hair.
We've seen many pigeons that we've had to rescue who have human hair, long stranded human hair wrapped around their toes.
Yeah.
It's quite common amongst pigeons in the urban areas to have that issue.
It is. I've seen some people say that very short pieces of human hair are okay, but considering that most birds aren't out there suffering from a lack of nesting material due to us not putting out human hair, I wouldn't advise it.
Exactly. I was going to make that point, that there is so much natural nesting material that birds will use. We don't always need to supplement them.
And I think same with the animal fur. You do sometimes see birds picking animal fur up off the ground or off animals, but if you put out absolutely heaps of it after brushing your dog or cat, they might use too much. I think it's probably okay just to use a little bit.
Well, that reminds me of that funny video you showed me of the cat on someone's porch and a bird behind it plucking loads of fur.
And the cat doesn't even care.
The cat has no idea.
String, ribbon and wool from knitting or craft projects are also very bad to put out for the same reasons as the other thing, and they may contain plastics which don't decompose naturally either. So that's my very short common misconception. If you've got another one to mention?
Oh, I do. This one. Foxes kill for fun. Sadly, foxes are vilified for so many different reasons. There's so many myths about them and their behaviours. Now, foxes killing for fun is a very, very common one. You hear stories of foxes killing lots of chickens and ducks and leaving them and only end up taking one or two. And people are going, oh, they just kill for the fun of killing them all. This is not the case. This is not a behaviour showing them having fun. It's a behaviour which is dictated by the situation where they can get as much food easily as quick as possible. And it's a survival behaviour. And yes, they'll go in, and if they can, they will kill as many birds or whatever animal it is they can in that short space of time. And they will take them all away. But the common problem here is the foxes are usually disturbed, so they don't get time to come back and get the rest of the bodies that they've killed. And what they'll do with them, they'll take ones that they can eat, the ones that they're not going to eat just now, they'll go and cache them somewhere safe when times get hard. It's a very common fox behaviour, and you'll see this in urban areas where people feed foxes lots of food from their houses. Foxes don't eat all this food, they'll go and cache it somewhere, usually in a neighbour's garden or under a neighbour's shed, which starts to stink after a while if they don't get around to eating it.
So can I be the angry chicken owner for a moment here? Why don't they come back on that same night and take the other bodies? Why do I come in the morning and find 20 dead chickens lying there?
Because they're most likely been disturbed. And if you think foxes are usually quite active dawn and dusk, if they've done this raid on this chicken shed in the morning, and then the owner's now up and about and making loads of noise and starts to come out, the fox is going to bolt. If he's not had enough time to come and get the rest of the animals to go and cache them, yes, it looks like he's killed them all for fun, but it's not. It's a behaviour they do, and it's a survival behaviour. And this is backed up by League Against Cruel Sports and the Fox website, which both mention this same behaviour. And it's a very successful survival technique used not just by foxes, but by many other large predators.
It makes complete sense as well, because if they were just killing them for fun with no plan of eating them, it would just be a waste of energy, and would also mean that another animal could just come and pick up the dead body. But since they're going to store them, it then means they've got many caches about where they can go and get the food when they need it. So it makes complete sense they wouldn't just do it for fun and then leave them lying there.
Exactly. The fox fully understands the risks it's taken going into this structure it doesn't want to be in. They're doing it for survival. They're doing it because they need to eat, and they maybe got young mouths to feed. They're not doing it for fun. They don't want to be in that situation. If they had an easier population of rabbits to go and get on a grassland somewhere, they'd probably go and do that. But if people don't protect their birds and offer them an easy alternative, of course a fox is going to take it. If you were living day to day and you could go into a bakery and get all the buns before the baker came back out again, you'd do it and go. If you couldn't carry more, you come back for more later.
I'd probably just eat them all for fun. Before we finish part 1 of our Common Misconceptions episode, I've just got one more to add, and that is, owls can turn their heads 360 degrees. This is actually not true. Owls can turn their head 270 degrees, so it's still pretty impressive. Their eyes are constructed really uniquely, which means that it's easier for them to turn their heads than it is to look around with their eyes. And their necks and arterial system are really original, so that they can have blood pumped to their brain even when they twist their necks so far.
270?
Yeah, I don't think you can manage 270. I think you'd severely injure yourself or deplete your brain of oxygen if you attempted that.
That's just so cool. I love nature and its little quirks like this.